welcome to the podcast. We're live in our Howard County podcast. Good. Thanks for coming up here today.
Thanks for having me. This podcast hits harder than Will Smith at the Oscars.
Oh, man! Now we gotta air this thing, soon before that fades.
Absolutely, just got to keep the memes going.
I don't know, that was timeout. That was the most fake thing I've ever seen in my life. That was fake.
Optics, all optics.
Hey, man, it got a big run rate so far.
Chris Rock's sales went through the roof for his new show coming up.
I heard.
And
it was a marketing ploy.
Yeah, and then Will Smith had like 500,000-600,000 clicks on his Instagram post. So it's like this is all optics. It's like Kanye taking
more than that, probably
the microphone from what's her name, the girl.
Oh, Taylor Swift.
Yeah,
but I think he actually did that.
I think
he's out of his mind.
Yes, that's accurate.
Will Smith actually bitch slapped him.
It's
just
slapped? Like if you're trying to prove a
why
point,
would you just punch him?
somebody?
Like he slapped him.
Mouth.
Yeah.
Like you were Muhammad Ali's like that was your show. That was your movie. You didn't learn how to throw a punch throwing Muhammad Ali, and you threw a slap. Come on, man.
I mean, I get they're actors, right? So they're legit acting. But in the same sense, if you're Chris Rock, you see this dude approaching you, you can tell he's angry. Like, why aren't you defending yourself? But I guess we all come from a different world.
And both guys apologized the next day.
Yeah,
like it was a public apology. So it was like, oh, don't hold me accountable. Oscar views,
but don't take my views back. We already got those.
Yep.
All right. Well, anyways, welcome to the Real Estate.
Thanks, buddy.
Welcome to the Real Estate Reserve podcast, #1 podcast. You know that #1 podcast for real estate investing in the whole world.
Is it really?
That's us right here.
That's about as real as this slap.
That's us right here. We're gonna keep telling ourselves that
we're #1 in Howard County.
We're gonna keep Maryland, not just Howard County. We're gonna keep
Maryland.
Publicly saying we're the #1 podcast for real estate investors. So welcome to the show.
But we are #1.
Yeah, #1, baby. Numero uno. All right, tell everybody a little bit about Aaron Foster.
Aaron Foster. Born and raised around the D.C. metro area. Been a firefighter for 18 years. Been investing for about that long. Done flips, wholesales, accidental wholesales, buy and holds, tax liens, a couple other things. Right now I'm in that transition period of like, do I want to stay in residential or do I want to move into something bigger or different? That's it.
I think a lot of people are in that phase. And I'm looking.
Why are you looking at me?
I'm just looking. I was looking at Aaron for a while now. I'm just looking. I mean, everybody is. I mean, everyone wants to kind of get into the next step, bigger assets. Don't want to deal with the crappier stuff. So I have a feeling we're going to talk about a bunch of different deals and opportunities. I mean, we've all known each other for a while, and you've done some creative deals over the years. What's one deal you're working on right now?
So I spent the last year restructuring almost all of my real estate holdings, selling, refinancing, restructuring, business loans to get it off my DTI, my debt-to-income ratio, because I want to have more available money just in case the market does crash. I know we talked about this before. So right now I just finished a refinance 2 days ago.
With a bank?
With a bank, yeah, with a bank, a credit union, who had the best rates, but they surprised me with some closing costs that weren't, they were supposed to be wrapped into the loan that had to come out of pocket about $8,000. So just the obstacle I had to overcome. But it opened up $165,000 of a HELOC now. And then I'm in the process of doing another HELOC, which is going to open up another $150,000, give or take, to have more access to money. And then I decided to change my strategy from selling one of my properties at a resort town to a short-term rental. So now I have to cut out new egress windows, extend the driveway, and then figure out what else they want from me.
Did the bank rates change on you from the time you got put in processing to the time that you closed? You just closed on it a few days ago? And
I closed it on Sunday or Monday. And the rates were supposed to be locked in, and the bank didn't lock them in. So I got in an argument. It was only a half a point different, but 0.5% is still, over the life of the loan, is thousands and thousands of dollars. Yeah. So I showed them my distaste and their move and unhappiness, and they actually dropped that 0.5 point back off.
Good for you.
But it's also a company that I have a lot of loans with. I've probably got 7-8 lines with. So
that's not happening just to first-time customers.
Yeah, you have to establish a relationship there, which, I mean, relationships make real estate go round. Relationships, motivation, strategies. Like we were just talking earlier about different strategies and different realms to get into these different, not just residential, but, warehouses and storage and the things that, my bearded wonder over here is into.
Well, if you retire, you can grow a beard.
I got 6 years and some change left. Like, I'm gonna stick this out.
Are you gonna stick it out?
Yeah.
There's no reason to leave. Yeah, you're right there.
Because I don't do bulk deals, and that's another thing. Is like, I'm that guy who does like 1 to 5 deals a year, and I'm comfortable with that.
Yeah.
I'm not the guy who has to go out and do deals every single month to make a living. So I have the option to, and my nest egg's there. I get my cash flow. I've got equity on all my properties. So I when I retire, I might transition into that like bigger, more deals more often. But right now, I'm comfortable.
He said transition. I got real nervous considering where we are. I wanted to clarify. But, I mean, look, dude, like, bigger and better is, like, not always, but bigger is not always better, right? But I think you're at a point in your career now that, like, why wouldn't you? You're going to do all that work for one single-family house. Like, why not do it on one big-ass property?
I agree.
Yeah, but also, like, he falls into the category of some of the, I don't know what his behind-the-scenes numbers are, but I can guess. I have an idea. But, like, some of the best investors I know do the 1 to 5 deals a year, one-man operation. They don't have lots of overhead. They don't have marketing expenses. They don't have staff. So what he can make doing a single family is a lot more than what your operation can do or my operation can do doing a single family.
Yeah, and I think Aaron's always done a very good job of finding, like, really, really unique deals, right? Like, that's always been your wheelhouse.
Is that a love sign?
It's a love sign.
Do it again. We'll zoom in. Oh, there we go.
Oh, yeah. Oh. But either way, like, he's done a very good job of finding, like, unique deals. And, like, this goes back to a few weeks ago when we were talking to Matt and Mike. Here they are trying to get into a deal and trying to grind it out and trying to figure it out. Meanwhile, Aaron's just, you know what? I'll hit a single. I'll find a unique deal. I'll sit around and wait, right? Like when it comes to investing, like, what do you look for? Like, what do you always try to identify?
Cash flow, growth, equity. So, like, I'm looking at a deal right now.
In that order?
I really don't have an order. It depends on where I'm at in my life. So, like, I normally I want to do value add because you buy it and you have forced appreciation. But I'm looking at one right now in Pikesville, which is not my wheelhouse. It's a condo for under $100,000. It'll cash flow $400 or $500 a month. It's turnkey, but I'm paying top dollar for it. And I'm like, do I want to do that? I'm like, well, $100,000. This thing will be paid off if I reinvest the money back into it in a couple of years. Like, I'm making cash flow enough, and I don't have any other projects going on, so this will just be something for me to add on to the list. I found one in Salisbury that was under $50,000. I sent it to a friend of mine who's a state trooper out there, and he has a bunch of properties in that area, and he knows the area. I'm like, hey man, if you don't want it, let me know. I'll take a swing at it. But if you want it, it's all yours. And that's what goes back to relationships is, like, when you invest, like, a lot of stuff like you learn is not just sitting in front of YouTube, paying for these exorbitant expensive teachers. We'll call them teachers. It's actually like networking with people who actually are doing this and getting into the know of this deal makes sense, this deal doesn't, for what I'm trying to do. So, I mean, for right now, I'm kind of laying back because this is a very flooded real estate rental and investor market, as you guys know, in this area. So I'm like, do I want to compete against 100,000 people, or do I want to compete against like 10 or 15? So I'm thinking about changing into a different strategy this coming year.
Yeah, but and also, you're not sidelined. That's not the right thing, but
keeping options open.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to do a rental, you're going to do a flip, you're going to do the right opportunity if it comes apart. And I think a lot of folks aren't only trying to step up to do bigger commercial stuff, self-storage, apartment buildings. Part of it is they think that's where the transition is of, I can't find these little deals. And let's be honest, like, there's bottom feeders that are trying to do all the small deals, and the barrier to entry to get into a $100,000 rental or flip or wholesale is easy, right? The barrier to entry to get into a larger deal, I mean, after you've done them, you almost think those are easier, right? Because you can even get the capital's even easier to get. But I think it scares people because they're bigger dollars.
We were talking about this the other day, is that, like, we're trying to refinance our Airbnb and a small warehouse, and that is more of a pain in the ass. We're talking about $500,000 worth of loan, and I'm like, I'm pulling teeth to get money from banks. Dude, they gave us an $8 million loan like that. Like, it wasn't even a question. And, like, I had a broker call me the other day. He's got this small deal, and he's like, I don't even want to mess with it. He's like, I'll just give you the lead. He's like, I could do all the work for this little $500,000 deal, or I can go do a $10 million deal. He's like, I'm going to wait and go find the $10 million deal, you know?
That's also, so it goes like right now you have more obstacles. So in 2008, the HGTV era was like, you can just go up and buy a house and pull the low hanging fruit off the tree and you can make money off of it. And you could, but a lot of people were too scared to because of the situation that happened with the crash. But now that we're 13, 14 years past that, people are like, oh, now I'm ready to get into it. And it's like, it kind of might be a little bit too late for it for the low hanging fruit. So it's one of those things. It's you just got to know what arena to play in and what you're comfortable in, and if you're not comfortable, how to get comfortable and who to talk to make yourself comfortable and get all the knowledge you can. Yeah,
well, so I remember, and I've probably shared this story a few times. Really, really, really big national guru that everyone probably knows, that I was friendly with years ago, and I'll never forget. He was like, in markets like we're in today, you can sell. The education game, the guru game is everywhere. It's so easy to sell education and guru and business opportunities to people because in the news, real estate's hot, interest rates are low. Like, buy. Like, that's what it is. And then this was in like 04, 05, 06, 07, kind of right before 08. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden, everyone's flooding in. He was killing it on his, on his coaching programs and consulting and courses. And then in 2009, 2010, he couldn't sell anything because real estate sucks. Get out. And that's when all the, the guys behind the curtain were going in and just scooping everything.
Who was it that like when everybody's running out, you want to run in?
Exactly.
The best deals are to be had.
It is. That's Warren.
It was
Warren Buffett.
literally our job.
Yeah.
Like it was literally our job. The place is on fire. Everybody else is scared. You run through the front door. It's the same thing in investing. If they're all running, okay, well, why are you guys running? Because you're scared because the interest rates ticked up a little bit, right? Like that same broker I was talking to the other day is like, so what do you think is going to happen? So we went over the forecast of like what I think and what he thinks. And then I was like, you know what though? All the jokers are getting out of the way. It's better for you. You don't have to sit there and get tire kicked.
I want this. I've been waiting for interest rates to rise for 7 freaking years.
Because you open up a lot of capital to buy more stuff in case it does happen.
Yeah. And also, like, my interest rates have been the same since we've been in business for the most part as a private lender. And, like, people are always like, hey, are your rates – like, people – this is the first week it's ever happened. People will reach out and said, hey, your interest rates increased. Be like, hell no. That like, be like, our interest rates are going down.
Yeah.
But, like, that's – and I've called some of my buddies that work with institutional backed lenders and local banks and stuff like that be like, what are your rates now? And like, we were here, they were here, and they're creeping up. Because at the end of the day, if a hard money lender is going to be at like 12.99 and a few points, and a bank or an institutional backed lender is going to be at like 10,
7, 6, 8,
10 and like a point or two, like it doesn't make a difference. If they're at 6 and 1 and we're at 12.99 and 2 or 3, like that's a big difference.
Yeah, but even right now, like what I'm going through, the ease of transaction, it's like, well, you know what? Like if I was going in to buy this deal instead of refinancing, the ease of transaction to do the hard money would be exponentially easier for me. I would just take that and run and then figure out where to refinance it later or find private capital, whatever it is, right? Like we spent a long time the other day with one of our investors, actually two of them, we have owner finance deals and both were like, well, actually, I don't want you to pay me off. Or like, well, we were going to go get a bank loan. That was that Airbnb in the warehouse. And both were like, well, let's just find a way to restructure current loan and we're good. Let's just leave the money in place.
Money coming in.
Yeah. And I was like, well, debt's on the rise. So the one dude went from 5.25 to 5.5, and the other one were taken from an interest-only loan into an amortizing loan. But you know what? If the banks aren't going to do anything worth writing home for, screw it. You know what? We got a good thing in place. We're making payments. They're happy. We're happy. Let's go.
And that's how it was. I mean, I don't know if you bought. Did you own anything in?
Yeah, I bought my first house in like 04, 05.
04, 05. Yeah. So
as it was creeping up,
exactly.
I wanted to get in with everybody else, and I was like, hold on for 2 years, and I won't pay capital gains and blah blah blah. Yeah. And then the market crashed, and I was like, oh well, change your strategy. Like, now I'm going to make it a rental because I'm by University of Maryland.
Exactly.
I'm by the Metro, so I can have more money coming in. I can go buy more assets. So that's when I started getting the liens, because liens hit real hard the next couple of years after that. People couldn't pay their property taxes or their water bills or whatever it might be.
And like we've heard people say before, like, oh, I'm just going to wait till it crashes and then I'm going to start then. It's like, no, you won't. Like, you don't know when that is. Yeah. Listen, we started lending in 07. Like, we got really, really big. And, a few years later, as we grew and as we had more capital, And like I didn't buy tons and tons and tons and tons of stuff because I didn't know better. Like I didn't know. Like it was like back then it was like you bought a property for this price and it was worth that price.
Yeah.
Maybe it was worth less. Like it was true value add.
Yeah,
like there wasn't like buy a property and then just hold on to it and it sells a year later for a big profit. Like it was value add. And these things were on MLS then.
Yeah. So the first house I bought was in College Park. It was a 3-bed, 2-bath house, single family. It was quarter-mile walk from the metro, and it was probably a 10-minute bike ride to University of Maryland. And it was a nice little property, a nice little neighborhood. But like at the top of the market, I bought it for $253. At the top of the market, it was worth $389, and I was like, hold on a little bit longer, and I'll sell it, and I'll make a bunch of money. And then the market crashed, and the house across the street from me sold at auction for $110. And me and like 5 of the neighbors sat in lawn chairs in my front yard drinking beer and like just watching the shit show go on. Again, probably needed $20,000 in work, but still, he bought a $110,000 house into it for $130, and he could rent it out for $1,500 back then. So he's still making money.
Yeah, but the people that held were fine. Didn't it's you ever read the book Psychology of Money? It's like my favorite book of all freaking time. After I read it last year, and I'm going to continue to read it. And like that's what it's about. Like most people panic and be like, "Oh my God, the market's going to keep going down. I got to sell." But you held on to it, and that asset's worth $400,000 or $500,000 today, probably.
Yeah. So let's talk strategy then. Let's talk about that one. So if I'd have sold the house underwater, I'd taken a short sale and I couldn't buy a house for a couple of years. Now I'm screwed, right? Because I can't get approved for money. But if I kept it and held on to it, which I did, and changed my strategy to make it a rental, I'm making money every month. I'm like 22 years old, 21 years old at the time, so I'm living for free. I'm cash flowing strongly. But the guy across the street who short sold, like he can't buy anything now. He can't get approved for it. Or if you file bankruptcy, the bank's not going to loan you anything on buying these houses. It all comes down to whether it be 3%, 4%, or 8%. As long as the property is cash flowing, you know what your monthly expenses are going to be, your overhead's going to be.
That's right.
So you can calculate and strategize and make moves based upon what your fixed prices are going to be.
Did you sell any of those assets in today's market?
I did. So that house I sold a couple of years ago.
Yeah. Because you were sick of it, or because it's like I don't see this thing going any higher?
So that house probably. So I sold it for. Bought it for $253. What did I sell it for? $389 is what I sold it for. No. What did I sell it for?
I was going to say about $400.
No, I think it was like $375.
Got it.
Is what I sold it for. But I sold it because I was managing adult children. Like it was like in University of Maryland, like in a lot of college towns, if you rent by the room, you have a higher rate of return. So if I have 3 bedrooms, then I have $600 per room. I did an add-on value where I dug the basement out, put an egress window in, and made another bedroom. So it ended up being a 4-bedroom after I was done with it. So you figure 4 bedrooms at $600 a pop is $2,400 a month.
Yep. So
I knew what my fixed rates were, but I had to manage 4 different people, and they were always like, "Well, he used the toilet paper, and he's leaving the window open," and I'm like, "I don't."
Wait, so this wasn't like student housing? Like this wasn't like college kids?
It's college kids.
But did they know each other?
No.
Oh, it was random college kids.
By the room, yeah.
Got it.
Yeah, so, and even like when I did like a group of people that had the same issue, it's like, oh, well, he wants to terminate the lease, and I want off the lease, and if he's not going to stay, I'm like, oh my God.
I have to ask my mom because she's probably paying for it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, which is great because, again, at University of Maryland or any college town, if you have the parents co-sign, you can hold them accountable for the funds if the kids damage the property or don't pay their bills. So it's another good strategy to have.
Yeah, and I think my question was more geared towards like, did you feel like it was a smart move to sell? Because like there's a point where like the asset's just worn. Like you just you the run rate of it, you're done. It's like, yeah, in 20 years from now, maybe that house is worth $1 million. Who knows? But like it's like I'm super happy that this is worth as much as it is. I would have never guessed that when I bought this thing. So it's like I could, there's better opportunities I can invest the money with.
So Ian and I talked about this a couple of years ago. I don't know if you remember this conversation where when we renovate a house, we want it to be relatively idiot-proof for about 2 years. So that you run into the smaller stuff like the clogged pipes or the garbage disposal clogged up. I know you take garbage disposals out, but like when you renovate a property, you want to be basically turnkey for 2 years and know what your capex is going to be. And that's what I look at properties. I'm like, okay, now that I've renovated it, and I've had somebody live there for 10 years, it's reached the life of the property where now I'm going to have to start replacing stuff or fixing stuff or putting roofs on. So I have a projected capital expenditure, CapEx. So I know, so we try to make a lot of the rentals dummy proof. So take out the double hung windows, and this is one of your famous ones that I picked up from you, is because the top window, they'll stick a sheet inside of it and slam the thing shut. and bust the window up. So do a single hung, take the spigots outside off so they're not yanking on the hose and doing damage to the pipes. What else was it? Take the garbage disposal out.
Screen doors, garbage disposal, ceiling fans. I mean, we went down and dirty, and then, probably in a college town you need to do a little more work than what we were doing. But we deleted anything that was like a service item. We stopped finishing basements real quick, right, because of the issues that we were having. But that was just our investment strategy.
Yeah, like I don't supply washers and dryers for the most of my properties because what are people hard? They stuff clothes in there and they bangs around. Same thing for like the refrigerators and the fridges. Like they stuff so much food in there, like the air can't move around. It won't freeze the food anymore. Like, oh, my fridge isn't working. Like, no, you have 30 tons of shit in a 5-pound bag. So maybe we should take some of the stuff out. I mean, it's all about strategy and finding the highest and best use of the property. And we did a Zoom meeting about a week ago, and part of the Zoom meeting was like highest and best use of this property. And it's each one you have to figure out what it is and what the strategy is going to be for it. So when I've been into a little bit of everything: Airbnb, short-term, long-term, liens. So like when you look at short-term rentals, you can do corporate housing, you can do nurse housing, you can do insurance housing, you can do vacation housing. So what's the best use of that property? And the more management, usually the more money you make. The least amount of management, the least amount of money you make. So you got to figure out where you're comfortable at and what the happy median for you is.
I would say the commonality across all those properties here, for you, for me, not so much Jason, is that we pay down principal every single month. Like, to me, that's the strategy. The strategy is cash flow and paying down principal. And, after a while, like, that doesn't resonate with you, but, like, on that $8 million loan, when we're paying down $15,000 a month, like, that's legit money, dude. Like, that's legit.
Real numbers.
100%.
Real money that's being bought down. I don't like to underwrite it into my return, which people do, but in the same sense, man, that feels good, real good.
This is off topic, but when you started the fire department in Baltimore, do you remember what you made?
We came in, it was like 38,000. I think
when I came on, it was like 32,000 in the fire department. And then, like, the other day when somebody was trying to negotiate with me to buy one of the properties, the realtor was like, "Hey, just come down 30,000. You'll still make $150,000 on it." And I'm like, "Bro, 30. That's kind of dirty stuff I used to do for $30,000."
Yeah.
Like, I had needles in my boots. I had blood on me. And like stabbings and shootings and fires. Like, $30,000 is a significant number. It's not just like, oh, you're still going to make money.
Yeah, so Dan and I were talking about this the other day because, we're in the process of selling our single-family portfolio. And, we got talking. And it's like, look, the negotiation went fine, but we've never felt like it always feels like we're giving, It's never like, oh, man, that was a great give-take. And when both sides were winning, it's like, Jesus, man, like, how's every time we're always breaking? It's like, at what point is like,
come off, slack off my back?
Yeah, like I want to be that guy. Maybe I don't, but one day I want to be that damn guy. It's just like, no, right? Like, until like it comes up to you. But in the same sense, it's like we're still in that grind of like getting deals done. I don't even know how you got me on this topic, but somehow you set me off.
That's the confidence that when you're in a spot and it's like, then I won't sell my stupid portfolio.
Yeah, true.
When we sold our rentals, I was like that too. I was like, do I want to hold off on this thing for another 30 days to get this, or I just be like, I don't have to deal with this shit anymore.
Yeah,
and I'll take and like they're big haircuts. I mean, thousands of dollars, and this is like whatever. I don't give a crap anymore. I just one less thing I got to freaking deal with.
Yeah, but in the same sense, that $1,000-$3,000 on 32 houses is $100,000, right?
No,
like,
it's real money.
And that was my whole beef. Like, sometimes I feel, and the broker we had, who we've interviewed here, really do like him, but I was like, look, man, the guy's off by $100,000, and you could hear like some hemming and hawing, but it's like, it's $3,000 a house, right? Like, it's not that much money, but then on the whole grand scheme of things, it is a lot of money.
Yeah.
And like here I am trying to pitch it. I'm like, why am I fighting this? Like, it should just be like, whose side are you on here? And like, let's just get this over and done with. But look, man, it's it's a tough game. We're happy that we're moving on from some of our assets, and you've probably bought and sold way more than we have.
Don't know about that.
No, you've definitely sold more than we have not sold a lot of like stuff that we haven't
sold anything.
Besides the houses that we flipped, we've never sold a rental. Any house that we've ever.
You probably flip more houses though.
Yeah, we probably flip more houses, but in the same sense, any house that we've ever set out to be a rental, we've never sold off. This is like our first big sale. And with that being said, it's like, it's even more real than like when we were cash flowing and buying them and living off of them and everything else. Now it's like, man, that sale is like real money. Like looking at that bottom line, you're like, holy shit. Like,
Well, I mean, you haven't sold stuff because, well, until recently, you just, there's no opportunity. It's not like anyone's selling stuff to just go, hey, man, I want to go buy a new car. I want to go buy a house. I need to sell an asset. Like, assets are always going to, all assets are already going to go towards another asset, right? Like, it's not going to change your life by doing that. Like, that's not your plan for it. I mean, we sold all of our rentals because I wanted to deploy that into hard money loans. And yeah, I mean, I got a big tax burden from that, but we still compared apples to apples, and we're like, we pay the tax, we potentially don't need another employee for this, we don't have any headaches, and our cash flow is about the same. That being said, we don't have the depreciation, we don't have the reduction of principal for the amortization schedule, but we're with this cash flow we redeploy it in real time into loans, and that increases. So it just depends on what works for everybody.
So one of the things, like, when I was learning from you guys is, like, so obviously my strategy is changing this coming year because I learned more, and I learned more, I can put that into use. So we'll say I can write off more against my taxes this year because I'm doing a specific what's it called?
Cost
segregation study. And now that I'm keeping a house that I was going to sell, I can do a cost segregation on a second house. So that should not have to pay taxes for 2 or 3 years now, at least, because I have 2 houses I bought in 2021 where I can cost seg them out and I can depreciate them over the next couple of years. And then when I'm done doing my cost segregation and taking as much as I can off these things, and I'm not benefiting as much, then I can try to resell them again depending on the market.
And then 1031. And use the tax system to your advantage, right? Like,
yeah. So that's one of my favorite things is, so I use the HELOC. I own a house outright in Frederick, Maryland. And I got a big old HELOC on that, and I used that HELOC to buy a house in West Virginia. The West Virginia property I made $150,000 on. I took that profit, and I went and bought another house. And then I'm going to refinance that house because that's not a taxable event. Take that money out, go pay off the HELOC. And it's like, now I've avoided taxes altogether. It's just a strategy that I didn't know
Well,
before.
I mean, so that's the best game, and that's the game that I think a lot of people should do and listen and hear from. The problem is there's a few reasons that's not sexy to a lot of people. Number one, it takes time. Number two, you're disciplined not to use the money on it, and that's what people want. They want it quick, and they want the money. It's like, hey, I want to go flip this property. Yeah, I'll reinvest some of it, but like, I'd like to take some of it out. And it's like, no, you got to follow the freaking game. You have, I mean, I don't even know if we mentioned that you're a firefighter. Did we mention that
I think we did
at the beginning? Okay, well, anyways.
He said he did literally the worst thing known to man for $30,000.
True.
That's when DC was. That's when DC was actually tough.
Still an active
firefighter.
firefighter.
Come on, man. So,
but like, you have income that comes in.
2 alarm fire last night, bro.
Like, you still have income that comes in. Now, I don't know if you use your W-2 income and you also take money out of your real estate to live. I don't know if you do that or not. But like, you have that backing, right? You have that setup, and you don't live like an asshole. And that's
whoa. I'm not taking the money out and going to buy like a Maserati.
That's part of it. And listen, people might, like, there's a time and a place that if you want to do that, you can do that. But like, you're in the growth phase, and it's like, hey, I want to acquire stuff. I heard something. What freaking book was that? It was one of the recent books related to, like, you have the. So I've always said, kind of back in the day, like in the 20s I learned, in my 30s I earned, and I'm early 40s, so I don't know what that is yet. I gotta
we're gonna learn.
I gotta come up, but I think
you got 2 years left, bro.
Yeah.
But I think it was like learning, earning. It was like you learn it, then you like really, really earn it, and then you kind of like preserve it, and then you kind of spend it. And spending might not necessarily be on yourself. That could be philanthropy. That could be giving it to your family. But in essence, like, you kind of just get rid of it. Like, before you die, like, you're getting rid of it. That could just be, I mean, that doesn't mean like on stupid stuff. That's straight up, through inheritance.
So Jason and I, not many people know this, but Jason and I went to the same high school. He's a year and a half ahead of me, or he's 2 years ahead of me, but I'm a year and a half younger than he is. And in high school, like, I wasn't known as an intelligent person. Like, I was a bit of a knucklehead. I was a hard worker. I figured school out. Just a lot of the reasons I had problems was I was highly dyslexic. And as I got older, I was like, I'm going to be a person that works with their hands, because college wasn't an option, because I didn't know about grants and scholarships and stuff like that. Nobody taught me about that. So as I got into this stuff, I'm like, holy cow, I can make money using my hands, and I can make money by investing in things. And then as I started getting a hold on some of the issues I had, like, I didn't know I was dyslexic. I didn't know what that meant. And as I got older, I was like, okay, so now I read a lot now to stem off the dyslexia. So like the Millionaire, what I'm getting at is a very roundabout way, is The Millionaire Next Door is a book that I've read years and years ago. I've read it more than once. And it's one of those things where you need to live frugally. Like you don't overexpend on stuff. Like I don't need to go out and spend, $1,500 or $1,000 a month on a new truck. It's just not my jam. I need to spend, maybe $250 a month, and just I know what my expenses are. A lot of people don't budget and don't do their expenses, but as I've gotten older, I've learned what my shortcomings are and my weaknesses are, and tried to better them. And a lot of people just kind of like take it for what it is. Like, oh, well, I have this disability or I have this problem. Like, it is what it is. I'm going to be that victim. Like, I don't want to be the victim of my story. I want to be the hero of my story. And that's that. Yeah. So that's one of the things that's like going into real estate is like you have to take action. Like if you're not willing to take action and you're not motivated, then you're never going to benefit from that's probably most of the world if you want to be in charge of something and make significant changes in money.
I think that's a problem in America as whole is, and I know this is like a real estate podcast, but being the victim of your story and not the hero of your story. Like I'm just sitting here thinking about that dude, that's legit, man. Like how many people, especially the industry we come from, sit around that kitchen table, can I get $5 till Friday for payday? I'm like, dude, you got 30 fucking years in. Like, what are you doing, man? Right? Like, and it's just, it's the same thing over and over and over again. Just like victimhood. Like, I was talking to this kid the other day and Dan's sister's trying to sell him a house and whatever, we're talking about it. And he's like, oh yeah, I owe $9,000 in taxes. And he's a mechanic, and he's never paid before. And I'm like, yeah, well, there's some government stuff. He's like, yeah, but the lady in the office screwed my stuff up. I'm thinking, well, okay. So he keeps talking and he keeps blaming her and blaming everyone else. And I finally just looked at him and he's young. He's 22, 23. He's very impressionable. I said, did they screw it up or did you not hold them accountable and did you not follow up on your stuff? And he's like, yeah, accountability, huh? I was like, yeah, that's the only way. Like, if you don't want to work for that person anymore or just being a successful person in general, you need to hold yourself accountable. And there's plenty of days I know all three of us don't want to get up and go do shit, but you have to, right? Like we got stuff to do.
We're motivated too, though.
Yeah, like we are, but in the same
motivated.
sense.
What was
the
that?
Same
the
sense.
Disc? That was a disc.
Yeah, disc personality.
I gotta take that personality test. But we're motivated and we're doers. Like I think that's what you said earlier.
Yeah, everybody that's probably comes and talks on this podcast is going to be a D, right? Like because we deal with business owners.
You've got D-I and S in you. I don't know how much C you have, but you have enough, probably.
So you call me a dick?
Yeah.
So calling you a dick.
No,
I was calling you a diss.
I
was dissing you.
He's dissing me. All right, cool.
C is the analytical, and you probably have some because you're kind of like a one-man operation and you're holding down the fort yourself. So like you have to have some of it, but you've got dominance. You've got the I, which is like
personality,
very, very outgoing, and then you have S, which is like you want to take care of people.
That's the thing. It's funny is because like you have the introverts and the extroverts, and being like I'm very outgoing all the time. I'll talk to virtually anybody, but I'm exhausted when I'm done. So I think I'm an introvert by nature, but like I don't mind talking to people and being friendly.
So does Glenn.
Yeah.
But when you're done, like my wife's the same way. Is like when she goes to work, she's very much an introvert, but she helps people sort through their life problems at the hospital, and then when she comes home. Huh?
She came off as an extrovert to me.
No, she's 100% introvert.
Really?
Like we did the parade, the Annapolis parade with the dogs for St. Patty's Day a couple weeks ago, and it's literally every 15 feet. Hey, what kind of dog? Who is this?
Yeah, that's an
and
introvert.
you have to talk to everybody.
That's an
and going through in a parade, and she was just like,
that's what my wife is too.
We walked away. She was like, "Oh my God, I'm exhausted," and that's just how she is.
Yeah.
And I think I am too. But like back to the victim thing. So this thing something I think is important. So we talked earlier about marketing and getting the views in these things and getting Instagram and social media followings and blah 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 blah. All this to kind of push our story forward or push our businesses forward. A lot of people, they see the way they can get the attention is being the victim. It's negative attention. So I'm not going to knock strippers, but a stripper is getting negative attention because they're on the stage and they're doing something, if they're comfortable with it, whatever. But it's not positive attention. They're not celebrating their wins. They're using an asset that they have to project themselves to get something from somebody. It's just negative attention. Or if like Jussie Smollett, the guy who said he got robbed by people who were yelling MAGA country. Like there was so much evidence that he was not a victim, but he used the victimhood mentality to try to get attention, to project himself. So like it's just negative, and it blew back in his face, obviously. But things like that, it's like you have to celebrate your wins and learn from your losses. Like know what your shortcomings are. Like I learned that I can overcome the dyslexia. So how do I do that? But if people don't ever own it, they're never going to go forward and get the traction they need.
And kind of the grinding and the motivation of just like being out there and just doing whatever it takes, like Gary Vee style, like Gary Vee, like even admits it. Like he's like, I don't read, I'm not the smartest person in there, but like he's out there like more than anybody else. Like that's an exhausting day, and not that any of us are compared to him because we're not. But the point is like we're out there actively trying to do it, and I mean we've done it. I mean I feel like I've done it since as long ago as I remember, and people do it in different ways. But like there's so many people that like lazy. All they do is watch sports. They don't do this. They're around the wrong sphere of influence, and over and over, and they're stuck in that. And I shouldn't feel bad for some of those people, but sometimes I do. And the reason why is because they just don't know better. Like they're stuck in there, and it's like this is my sphere. Like everybody around me is acting like this. I don't know any better.
Yep. You don't know what you don't know.
You don't know what you don't know. That's a good way to explain it. And I don't know, but like it's. One of the reasons I like coming in here, and one of our partners, Ryan, who runs our New Jersey office, he works out of his house, and he came in here the other day, and he was like, can I drive down here every week and work out of here? We're like, hell yeah. He was like, I had the most productive day because I was like, this is what we do. We come in, we talk about business, we talk about assets, we talk about life, we talk about this, like, turn the lights on real bright, eat healthy, like you're around here. I mean, when
you are the equivalent of the 5 people you spend the most time
when Ian
with.
comes, we don't eat healthy.
Yeah, well, it's a long ride, a long day. But
I asked for vegetables, not French fries.
I said, "What do you want?" You said French fries. Is it okay?
Yeah,
but even for me, just going to see Dan, right? Like I can't work out of the house. I can't do it. First off, just like it was like you need a place to lock yourself off. I'm like, yeah, but then I'm like locked in this like little box of a room. Like, our office. Yeah, most of the time it's just me and Dan. But like. Guys will come through and hang out. Like yesterday, one of our investors stopped by, and she's like, hey, I'm in the area. Want to stop by, say hi? Okay. Right. She comes bearing presents. We hang out. We talk. We have couches in our office. Sometimes me and Dan will just go sit on the couches just to chill and just have someone to talk to. Like
you're an introvert, though, too. So.
Me? I'm not an introvert.
No, extrovert, too. Sorry.
Yeah,
you're
I'm
an
extrovert,
too, meaning like you need to be around people. Like,
I need it.
Like
I need it. I thrive.
But you get energy off of people.
Yeah, like you get energy
you feed off.
You know where my favorite place in the firehouse was? Goddamn kitchen table. Like someone said, "What did you do for 24 hours?"
Right in your mouth.
I would sit in the engine bay and we'd smoke cigars and I would just talk shit for 24 hours straight. But that's what I needed. I needed it.
See, I'm different because I'll go get a book and I'll sit in the engine bay by myself and like watch the world go.
Oh
by
yeah,
bay doors.
and I'm the guy in the back. What the fuck's that guy with the book out front?
He thinks he's better than us.
Yeah.
Screw that guy.
Yeah.
No, but you'll just go and talk to whoever, and like that's fine, like because you need that. Like I can sit in my office by myself or in my house and work if I want to, but like it's gonna be like I'm not gonna watch sports. I'm not gonna freaking dick around. Like it's gonna be business stuff. Like it's on program. There's nothing else that interests me. I like the blend of life and business is what's it. Like if you're like, hey, I'm not gonna go read a novel or go watch a freaking movie. It's like no, it's gonna be business, self-help, like making money, like that's all. I agree.
So me and my wife will at nighttime we'll sit down and watch TV, and she'll watch TV because that's one thing she can do. Meanwhile, I'm like, I have my phone right here, I have a book over here, I got my computer right here.
Thank you. Yes.
And she's like, and she's as we've grown together, she's like, I know what to expect. Like you can't just do one thing. Like,
exactly.
You need to have other things going on.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's a lot of people are like that.
You come over to send your wife over to my house.
We have women date night. Well, guys go out.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Like we'll sit down, and I do like to sit down with my wife and watch TV. But I'm like, I need to have my phone here because like it's still shit at 10 o'clock at night that I like to monitor and make sure things are going on.
And you don't need to, but like you're just. I mean, listen, there is something like Chris was like me and Glenn and Chris did a podcast recently, and Chris said that he purposely puts his phone in the other room when he's watching Netflix, and I'm like, I can't do it either.
I'll do it when I get home. When I get home from work.
I can't do it either.
When I get home and the kids are awake, from the time I get home, no matter how long it is, I put my phone over on the desk unless I know I'm seriously expecting something, and I'll just hang out with them for like private time. And then after that, it's kind of like all bets are off. But
you should do it. It's a good thing to do.
You guys both have kids. You know how to prioritize. Like obviously, family first, and that's your number one priority. Yeah. So like you can push all stuff to the side. Like this is my priority. This is going to take precedence over anything else going on. Some people don't know how to prioritize either, and that's another one of the drawbacks or downfalls of relationships is like I don't know how to prioritize the people in my life. Like, is this going to be enough to keep them happy? We're going down some rabbit holes today, boy. Aren't we? Good Lord.
You want to lay down? You want to lay down?
I got a friend of mine. He's former Special Forces, and he would lock himself in a room and do schoolwork. He's going to school after using his GI Bill to go, make himself a better person. And I was like, God, I can't imagine sitting in a room for 8-10 hours a day and studying. Like, I would go stir crazy. And I asked him about it one day, and I was like, dude, like, doesn't that play on your emotions or whatever? And he's like, honestly, sometimes I feel like I'm in a black hole, and I start feeling myself go down this like PTSD rabbit hole, and I have to recognize like I need to get out of this space.
Yeah, but also like
self-awareness.
He probably didn't do that at the beginning, but he got to the point of maturity where he's like, I'm sick of this lifestyle. This is my way that I'm going to do it. And he took a turn for it, right? Like, he's like, I'm not going to watch the football game with them. I'm not going to drink. I'm not going to go smoke. I'm not going to go whatever, roll dice, whatever the heck.
Whatever his vices.
Does for fun. But, like, most people, like, they still do that. Like, the average person, like, whatever, comes home from work. They do whatever their activities are with their kids. And then, like, they're not reading, like, Millionaire Next Door or Rich Dad, Poor Dad. They're going to watch freaking sports. And I remember...
Turn their mind off. That's what they want to do.
Yeah, yep. and I remember...
There's nothing wrong with that.
But they're trading their mind for money, right? Like, people say time for money, but they're literally trading your mind.
But we're addicted to, like, business, personal finance, assets. Like literally, like, you know, I'll walk around in a circle and black out just to try to figure out like this approach of how I want to structure this deal. That's what I do.
That's our vice, though. Like, so our vice is, all right, our we'll call it your side hustle. You can call it your hustle. You can call it whatever you want to. It's your vice. Like, we don't go out and gamble all the time. We don't go out and drink all the time. We don't go out and smoke. We don't go. There's a lot of things we don't do. Our vice is to have this structure of business. Like, how do I fix this? Like, this keeps my mind occupied and it makes me happy. It might not make the average person happy. Some people, like, they have the addiction, which is an unhealthy addiction to gambling or drugs or whatever it might be.
It's not even that. It's just watching sports, watching Netflix, like doing stuff that's not increasing, you know, not
bettering yourself.
Not bettering themselves.
I do have trouble sitting down with my wife and watch TV. Like, we're finishing up Billions, and we've watched some TV, but I just sit there going, we could be so much more productive. I get it. Like, you need to let your mind loose. But she's like, this is my time, and I get it because she takes care of the kids all day and everything else. But it's still, I'm just like, this is mind-numbing to me. And then, like, I pass out on the couch, and that turns into a fight and everything else. Oh, we're not talking about my personal life?
Yeah, but Billions is
you want to lay down now?
Yeah.
Billions is a good show, though. But
I'm almost through season 6.
But, I mean, I try to do that. I mean, personally, I would like to watch it for, like, hours a night. Like, you know, TV in general, but like typically, if we can get in 30 minutes or an hour.
How about the guys at work? They'll literally come in.
They're watching 6 hours a day.
Dude, no, they'll come in at 6 a.m. They won't even get coffee. They just get right in their recliner, and that's it. And they'll just sit there all day.
We don't have recliners, but dude, like Die Hard was on. I think they got to like Die Hard like 16 or whatever the highest number was. Like Live Free or Die Hard. I was like, how did you guys sit through all these freaking Die Hards, bro?
And that's the difference. You're out on your computer. You're looking at deals. You're calling bankers. You're calling brokers. Yeah. Like, that's the difference. Like, that's the time. And going back to, like, I mean, you know, kind of feeling bad for people but not feeling bad for people, it's like it's almost like you have no excuse, especially as you get older, because time is on your side. Not many people I know have made
time is on your side.
Yeah, depends on how you look at it. It's all perspective.
Go on.
Time is on your side. I mean, my whole business model and everything we've done has been slow and steady. Slow and steady is always win the race. I've never had a big hit. We've never, you know, had a huge flip where it's like tons and tons and tons of money. I know some people have, you know, they'll make a fortune in like 5 years. You know, we're slow and steady, but it's like, you know, our whole game plan is grow a gigantic snowball and continue it growing that it could never break. You know, even if whatever, a downturn in the economy,
it might chip part of the snowball off, but it's not going to take the whole thing out.
Exactly. Maybe one asset class I'm invested in completely goes to shit, but it won't break us. And that takes time to do that. But like, you know, if you're 60 years old, 70 years old, whatever the case is, I mean, think about it. Like, think about how much money you have to put away on a monthly basis to make a lot, you know, to have a big nest egg in the future. It's not a ton. You know, it's not like, so, you know, everyone's like, oh, well, I don't have an extra money to save. Like, you don't need to save $1,000 a month. Save freaking $100 a month.
I got a buddy of mine, like, he's been going and getting like books or stuff at thrift shops and flipping it on eBay.
Sure.
I'm like, so I was like, I wonder how much he's making. So I asked him, I was like, you know, what are you doing? He's like, I'm doing a couple shirts a week. He's like, I'll go and spend 10, 15 minutes and see if there's anything that I think looks good, and I'll sell it on eBay. I'll buy it for $3 or $5, and I'll turn around and sell it on eBay for $20. I was like, so you make $60 on basically probably a half hour of work.
That's right.
I was like, so basically you're breaking it down to, if you're making $60 in a half hour of work, it's $120 an hour. If you really can take off with it and put it in a box and parameters and grow it if you want to into a business. I was like, that's a lot of freaking money. But obviously your overhead would change and your storage would change and everything else. He's like, dude, I'm just a little bit of money here, a little bit of money there.
He's
that's
right.
all I need. You're right.
Yeah, he's right. And then it's just like buying like a cheap rental property, and then this circles back to upping your asset class, right? Because he's not going to do that hard work. Like Ian's not going to do a lot of hard work for like a $200 rental property. He would have loved a $200 positive cash flow rental property when he was starting, but it's the same thing. He's doing that. Doing textbook arbitrage is kind of the same thing when people flip college textbooks just because they're higher dollar. Those things sell for hundreds of dollars on it, and then they buy them back for nothing.
And there's companies that made like millions of dollars off of this, like
100%
buying or renting these books.
That's right.
Let your buddy know if he ever comes across a good copy of Atlas Shrugged, I'll pay him legit money for it.
All right,
good original copy.
But Gary Vee, Gary Vee does a lot of content, trash talk, where he does
he goes garage sailing.
He goes garage sailing, and he doesn't need to do that shit. He goes garage sales and
enjoys it.
And exactly. But also it proves a point for people. It's like he goes out there, he can make a good dollar, a lot of money per hour doing that. Now, does someone want to do that as a full-time job? No. But the point is do whatever it takes. Those people don't want money bad enough. They don't want freedom bad enough.
See, I look at it. I don't think time's on any of our side, and I experienced death from a close family member at a relatively early age, and I don't view it as that. I view it as you're talking about your victimhood versus being your hero of your story. To me, leaving that generational wealth changing thing, I only have a limited amount of time to do this, and part of that is because I want to do life experiences with my kids, right? Part of it is I am afraid to die at an early age. You know what I mean? And I want to do it now. And I don't disagree that you don't need to do it when you're 20. Maybe you can do it when you're 40 and you're more mature or whatever else. But in the same sense, that you got a window and you gotta dominate it. And then past all that, since I've stolen the microphone for a half a second, is that the one thing about all of our investing models that I think everybody should take out of this is that they're not sexy. Yeah, it's sexy. We bought a $12 million, we bought this huge storage facility. It's worth $20 million, right? That's sexy, sure, but you know what the cash flow is? It's just cash flow. It comes in every month, right? It's not super sexy. Now break that down to a rental property, $300, $400, $500 a month. It's not sexy, but you know what? When you get 10, 15, 20 of them, it's fucking sexy.
Yeah, it changes. It changes your life too.
The point is think about where you were 10 years ago. It seems like yesterday. 10 years from now seems like that's going to be forever to get to. And you're right, time isn't on your side, but at the same time, people got to put goals and realistic things in place. So many people don't save because they're like, $100. What does that mean? That's going to mean nothing in the future.
Yeah, but $100 is $1,200 a year.
Dude, I've been dumping $70 a week in this, it's called stash. You just invest in the market. I haven't touched it. I looked at it the other day. There was 5 figures in there. I was like, oh shit, that happened quick over 5, 6, 7 years.
And it's if you put small chump change in there, I could have paid to go out to dinner, or I can put it in this little asset.
Yeah,
my parents the other day, we have rental properties that are a block away from each other in Frederick, and I told them what I was getting, and I know what they were getting because I helped them get the property, and I was like, you need to raise the rent. You need to call her and tell her we're raising the rent $25, and she agreed to it. I was like, $25 is $250 a year.
Yep.
So I'm like, this $250 a year you didn't have before.
$300 a year.
$300 a year. Yeah, $300
$25.
a year. Thank you.
$300.
Well, on top of that, they were paying the water bill for the lady. So now that she has to put the water bill in her own name, that's another a couple $100. I'm like, so now you're at the $500 to $1,000. It's all about strategy.
Yeah. And
so I've traveled, and I know you guys like going on vacations, but I've traveled around the world. I've driven across country in probably close to a dozen countries by now. And I've seen the rich of the rich, and I've seen the poor of the poor. And I've mingled with the rich of the rich, and I've mingled with the poor of the poor. And I can take little bits and pieces off that, and it gives you a different perspective. What do I want to be? Do I want to be a simple person who doesn't have anything, or do I want to be a very complex person who has to keep up appearances? And that's not me. Yep. So you have to figure out where you want to be at in life. And again, it goes back to figure out who you are, figure out what your shortcomings are, work on them, and then celebrate your wins and build upon those.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of people don't take the time to look at inward at themselves for these investment properties. So or investments, period. And there's like little things you can do. It could be flipping, it's garage sales. All right, we'll talk strategy, garage sales. Gary Vee likes to go to garage sales, right? So am I going to go to a garage sale in the hood where there's like ratty stuff there?
Exactly.
Or am I going to go to a garage sale over
in North Jersey where he goes?
Yeah.
And pay an extra $1 for an item, but it's worth 10 more,
yeah.
or they don't value it as much. You ever think of that? Like he goes to the rich neighborhoods because like, whatever, it's just junk to me. Whereas you might go to another neighborhood that's lower income, and that's their prized possessions, and then you're trying to get a top dollar for it.
I know people who did that, and they got really, really nice stuff in their middle class house from going to rich people's houses and buying stuff at cheap prices. And this was before, I guess it's like the inception of Craigslist when that started happening. And obviously, Craigslist is dying off. Like I don't market on there anymore for the most part.
Facebook Marketplace.
But Facebook Marketplace is there.
That's where users are.
I flip stuff on my Facebook Marketplace once in a while just because it's like you have to come to me to buy it. I don't have to ship it out. So I have it. It's just a little bit of extra money. You come to me, you spend the money, and I get rid of something that I would have thrown away otherwise probably or given away.
Yeah. I mean, it sums up two big things. This didn't really talk about real estate in these two things, but it sums up two things. Like there's always a way, to do it. Like get off your ass and do it. But start small, right? Start something like somebody's like, I'm not going to buy a $100,000 property. You think it's, or I'm sorry, $500,000 property. I think they need a lot of money that they might not have. They don't want to take the risk. So start small. And then just like a lot of us have done, you've transitioned into bigger and better assets over the years, into bigger stuff. I mean, I completely know. I mean, that deal that Ian was talking about earlier in Alabama, he would have jumped all over that deal 2 years ago. Right?
Yep.
You would have been like, this is a great deal. And I think it's a great deal too, but you don't want to mess with it now. It's too small for you. It's too small for your platform. It's the same reason why, when some of my partners in other markets are like, why don't you want to mess with this $50,000 deal? It's a good deal. It's like, I don't want to deal with the headaches. Like, I'm not going to make that much money on it. And
what's your time worth? What's the money worth? Like, what kind of return can you get? And if
there's lots of deals. There's lots of deals I would have chased. We would all have chased early on that we don't want to chase anymore because it's not worth the headaches. And also we know now, what we didn't know then.
So one thing, quality of life is a big thing. So we've talked about this at length multiple times. So your quality of life is very important, and you don't realize that until you get older. And I think as in our careers, we see so much death and destruction, and all the bad stuff that goes with humanity. We want to have a quality of life, and it's like, okay, wow, I have an option now to have a better quality of life, so I'm going to pursue it. And now I have the means to do it. So last year, I bought a house. I had. With the 1031 money that I made, I could go out and buy a property. And I was like, do I take that money and I buy the highest cash flowing property there could be out there? Or do I go and buy a vacation property for myself where I'll make some money, but I have a place I can get away to in the weekends and have a better quality of life and relax with my wife and families and my friends can use it. And I was like, I want to have a quality of life purchase so I can, recharge my batteries or whatever they say the trendy thing to say is. Because that's if you're depleted and you're exhausted all the time, then you're not going to be productive and you're going to start getting grumpy and you're going to stand your own way. So, again, it goes back to strategy. What's the highest and best use of it? And is it a quality of life purchase, or is it a cash flowing financial investment?
Yeah. People, and it's funny when you buy that quality of life purchase, everybody got something to say. Everybody got something to say. Oh, how's
everybody has an opinion of what you should do with your money.
Yeah, how you afford that? I can't believe you're doing that. You should do this. You should do that. I'm like, you know what, dude? We're at a time in our lives where we can afford to buy this or we can buy that and we can enjoy it, but still be frugal. I mean, Christ, Dan drives a 2003, Dodge Ram. Up until a year or two ago, I drove a 2000 Ford Excursion. Right, we don't have debt on it. There's frugal things that you can do in exchange to get better quality of life stuff.
I think I've seen that truck in a couple of videos.
Yeah, because you can do stuff. You just can't do everything. I mean, maybe you can do everything if you want to, but
but you better get hustling because time's not on your side.
But also nobody needs it. None of us need that stuff, and that's the difference. Everybody, like you said. The average person would have flipped that house, taken that $200,000, be like, I'm rich. Yeah. I got my $200,000. How am I going to spend it? Because that's what everybody thinks.
And then Uncle Sam
you
takes
make money to
40%
spend.
of that.
Yeah.
All of us don't make money to spend. We make money to invest.
Yeah.
That's.
So your quality of life is better later on. You want to live comfortably now, and you want to be able to live in a better quality later.
The way I look at this is very, very simple. Related to making money and everything. The money I make goes into assets. Very, very simple. All the money I make, that's small household bills or whatever. I have one business venture that pays household bills. It goes into there because if I put all my all income into that. It all gets spent. Like, you know how that goes, right? So everything else goes into assets, and the assets obviously get bigger and bigger and bigger. And like, I don't buy anything unless my asset pays for it.
Yeah,
like that's the way I look at it. Like
that's how it started for me.
Yeah,
it was house number 1 was like, all right, well, it's like the same as overtime. Well, then house number 2 is like, well, I want a new truck. Cool.
Who's going to pay for it?
That's it. And
That's
then
right.
I bought the next house, and I was like, okay, well, that covers my truck payment. And I was like,
Same
fuck,
thing.
you afford that?
Same
You only
thing.
got this many years in. I'm like,
But-
well, yeah, but this house pays for it. Instead of taking that money and putting it down on it, I found that money to put it into something to then pay for that. Well, then the next thing was this. The next thing was that.
When we did Russell Brunson's $25,000 mastermind group every
Yeah.
year, straight up, Chris and I were like, cool, let's do this. Where's the money coming from? We didn't swipe freaking Amex. It was like, let's see what we can do to get an asset.
Well, you swiped the
pay for
Amex
this.
for the points, and
That's
then
right. That's
then
right.
you
But-
figured
but
out
it-
how to pay
But
for
it had to get bucketed from
Yeah.
somewhere, and it could have just been a regular deal, like a regular loan that we did.
A lot
But
of-
that was the mindset, and I think if you have that mindset of like, stop spending fucking money, and if you want to buy something,
be frugal.
not even that, like
Budget.
if you want to buy something, how are you going to pay for it?
Yeah.
Not from your normal household income.
Well,
Like,
you know what that
get
book,
someone else to pay for it.
The Banker's Code. It's an old one. Bankers
Anton?
George
I met him-
Anton.
I met him years back
Yeah.
at an event, and
That
a
one-
off event, and we talked for a while, and he it's perfect.
Yeah, that's exactly what he talks about. And then it's like, the thought of like even creating your own family bank is like, it's not that far fetched, right? Like, and for me, it's always been, sure, we have our distributions from our company, but then like on top of that, any money I reinvest, like I want to get to a point where I know that I'm self-sufficient from those distributions, from the stuff that I'm investing in to continue to grow.
One of the biggest obstacles that I see is a lot of this stuff isn't taught. It isn't taught in schools, isn't taught by our parents because they might not know. It's not a conversation that you have with most of your friends. Like, I didn't know what our 457 or 457 Roth was until a couple of years ago. And I'm like, nobody ever taught me this. So how would I know to invest in this if nobody teaches you? And it's like, you don't know what you don't know. Like we said earlier, is that I just don't know. Like, even now, like I'm still learning, like, how do I not pay taxes? Like, what do I need to do to offset these gains? What do I need to do to offset this? And unless you are and put yourself in a position to learn these things, you're going to stay stagnant and spin your wheels in place.
Well, and that would do like,
Do you think it should be taught?
Absolutely.
well, I was about
But
to say,
who's gonna teach it?
We're
we're moving to Florida.
Mrs. Mancarini taught a class in at our high school, and was that what it was? Consumer math. Yeah. So she taught us about taxes and taught us about making payments and truck payments. And
I agree, and I'm not disagreeing that it shouldn't be taught, but again, who's going to teach it? How are they supposed to know
Yeah,
it?
but you know what is called? You know what is taught in school? Sorry, you guys are going to set me off. You know what's taught in school? Go to college, go get a job, go get in debt, save up. You're going to get Social Security, put all your money away, right? Like, that's what's taught.
Yeah.
Nobody ever says, well, live for fucking today, man. Like, go out there and do it for today and find a way to provide.
Live for today isn't necessarily the right.
No. What I'm saying is find assets that produce the income you need to do, right? And then all these other retirement accounts, you start worrying about them when you're making a lot of money, and then you can start sacking money away in retirement, right? Like you talk about the 457 plan. I'd put a little bit in there, but I was taking that money instead of slamming it into there, I was slamming it into assets, and then that allowed me to provide cash flow. And then once I got to like a critical mass, I was like, you know what? I can offset my max contribution because I'm making enough money over here, and now I'm contributing over here.
strategy.
Yeah, that's
The
100%
change.
strategy. And to me, the strategy, sorry, this is my opinion, the strategy should be find a way to do what you want to do today and then worry about your retirement at a later date. Everyone says start super early. Yeah, you should put something away, but don't commit 100% to that game plan. But maybe it's your personality type. I
So
don't know.
where do you learn that, son? Like let's say the 457, or you put the money into
Where
an
did I-
asset versus 457.
Where did I learn it?
Yeah.
To
Himself.
me, it just like it never. You talk about like being in school and saying like working with your hands and not working a 9 to 5. Like all that always made sense to me. But like the thought of just like sticking this little bit of money away, I'm like, well, why would I do that if I could buy a house that would cash flow this every single month? I want my retirement money today. I want to live off of that. I want to be like essentially we're retired. That's how I look at ourselves. We are retired today living off our dividends. Sure, we got this big business and whatever else. But in the end, if we never bought another deal, never did another nothing, we have dividends coming in and we're retired, and I have my retirement plan for it. I don't know. I don't
you
know
have
where
equity
I learned
growth there because you
Yeah.
have all these assets.
it. I
you
think
have
that
cash
George
flow
Anton
coming
book
in.
was, I read it early on and it fucked me up. Like that's
But
where it came from.
Where I'm coming from with all this is like
It fucked you
most
up in a
people.
good way.
Yeah, like it was like be your own bank, man. That's just always
No,
what I
it's-
thought.
Okay, where do you
It's
learn
a
how to
good
do
premise.
that then? Because honestly, like if I didn't have the friends that I surround myself with,
sure.
like I wouldn't know a lot of these things. Like when I asked you about cost segregation, I was like, hey, what's cost segregation? You're like, you don't know what cost segregation? I'm like, never heard of it before.
Did you wind up using Jerry?
I'm still in the process of using him, and I'm probably going to use him on the Deep Creek property too, because now I have two I can do it on.
Yeah, we just saved $1 million on White House over 3 years. So.
Yeah, but like,
crazy.
Who do you like? If the average person is not going to know to ask these questions, so where do they go to learn this?
Well, I think the first thing is they need to have the want to go out and want to learn it, and then they'll seek it, right? Like I believe in the universe, right? Like it was like, well, I want to learn about real estate. Well, then this guy walks into Christine's in-laws place and talks about how he retired from Section 8 housing, and I was like, well, that seems cool. And then 3 weeks later at work, I'm like kind of like moseying around, and I'm like reading this book. Yeah, I was actually reading a book at work. It's kind of funny. The guy was relieving me on the medic. He's like, yeah, it's a pretty cool book. What's it about? Started talking about it. It's about real estate. And he's like, I'm going to this real estate meeting tonight. You want to go? And that's where ultimately I met the guy who was my mentor for a foreseeable future. And that's where I learned it. And it's like, if I never had that desire inside of me to even conceptualize it and be the extrovert and tell people what I want to do, it would have never came to me.
But that's what we all have, and that's the difference between successful people and not successful people. And like you can't force someone who doesn't want it to want it.
They got to figure out what they want.
I get it, but like the fact is it's like everybody's not going to want your path.
That's fine, but let me ask you a question: do you think would somebody that's a W-2 employee, could they be considered successful?
100%.
Same way we consider success.
100%.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I do too.
Because
what's your question?
The ultimate question is they're doing what they want, right? And just for me, this is what I wanted. And I do think people should find that. But if that's what gets you off going to work for someone else and making the company and the team,
but also like I'm not disagreeing about teaching some of these things. So it's available. It is available. It is available for the people that want, and people that don't want. They want to do their normal thing and say, you know what, I want to focus on my trade. Let's say I want to be a firefighter full time. I want to focus on this, and that's all I want to do is devote myself to this. And I want somebody else to manage my finances and everything else. And I'm not agreeing with that. I don't want to do that.
So the basis,
but I understand it if that's what people want.
It's effort. So a lot of people lack effort. So like, so everything takes effort. If you don't put effort into something, it's not going to grow. So Ian and I met probably a decade ago, and then we've slowly cultivated our friendship over the course of the last decade. And then Jason and I knew I knew who he was, he knew who I was, he knew my sister, I knew his brothers, but we weren't friends. And when we got into adulthood, we put effort into maintaining a relationship.
Right. Like-minded, one stay in the same sphere.
Yeah, so it all takes effort, and if people don't put the effort into real estate or investing or flipping furniture or flipping stuff from garage sales, like if you never put the effort in, you're going to stay spinning your wheels in place and just going to complain about where you are. Unless you quantify your success as your W-2 job, I'm happy with where I am. I can't quantify my success compared against Ian's, because for me, I think I'm successful. For Ian, he thinks he's successful, and my opinion of somebody else's success shouldn't matter to him.
100%.
Because a lot of people, and you mentioned this earlier, is like you look at social media and it's like, oh, I got these cars and I got these.
Yeah, you got to stay off
these
social.
houses and this that, and the other. I'm like I know some of these people, and I'm like, I know they're also full of shit. Like I know that car is rented, that he's doing a photo shoot.
Most of them are full of shit.
Yeah, and I know this guy's house that he just did that party at, that's rented from Airbnb, and he spent, I think, like $5,000 for the night to have that party there to make himself look like a baller. Like, let's be realistic with these numbers. Like, the average person is not going to go out there and have a cost expense every month of $10,000 of the cars and the vices and the housing and everything else. Like, most people can't afford that, because after taxes, after Uncle Sam takes their 20 to 40% of your taxable income, you are not going to have the available money unless you're a very, very high earner to live this lifestyle. And I know, like, I've got friends that are doctors. One of them went to high school with us, and he's got his Lamborghinis down in Florida, and he's got this baller house, and he's happily married.
And he makes a lot of money, but guess what? He's got nothing behind the scenes.
Yeah, but no, he does. So that's what he quantifies success as. This is what I want. This is what I've always wanted, and that was his goal, and he obtained it. He puts all the effort into that. And does he invest? Yeah, he's a smart dude, so he invests outside of that as well to help offset some of those costs.
Okay, yeah.
But some doctors and dentists and lawyers that I know, like, they live this lavish lifestyle and they don't offset their expenses. So, like, I know guys who are much, much higher earners than I am, and they're like, "How do I do this?" I'm like, "What do you mean? Like, you're making $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 a year. Yep. Like, what do you mean? How can you do this?" Like,
I mean, that's a lot of people.
Yeah, but they got a $300,000 house budget too.
Their expenses massive.
Yeah,
to keep up appearance.
Status and ego.
Well, I was talking to, so obviously we moved as of recent, and I said, look, we can buy this house and spend this much. We can go buy the dream house. That'll be a lot of work, and it's going to be a gigantic place and whatever else, and we can buy that. Yep. Or we can be, buy the first house, be conservative, and eventually maybe buy a shore house if that's what you want to do, right? Like, let's just have a bunch of little things, and we can do a bunch of stuff.
And you can afford all three of those,
right?
But you choose not to, just like the rest of us.
Yeah, we all could have, $1 million mortgages on a bunch of different houses, but like, why would you do that to yourself, right?
Exactly.
Like,
that's brain
and then not spend any time in them and travel the country.
Like that's what Bill Gates is building a $1 billion house out in freaking San Diego right now, and it's been under construction for like 2 years or something like that. And the neighbors are like, "This is an eyesore. This is a pain in the butt." And he's only been there, I think, twice in like the couple of years that he's building it. And apparently, the other houses that he had, I've read this article, like he only visits them like 2 or 3 times a year, each one of them. Like, what's the point?
Dude, I like the Hermosi approach, and like it's easy. It's a little bit easier for him. Not that that's an excuse, but he doesn't have kids, and
sure,
he's also younger than all of us. But like, after he sold his last company for $100 million, he sold everything. And he's like, I don't own anything. Not a couch, not a light, not anything. I've got a backpack with a few pieces of clothing in it, and they moved and they started over. And they're like, and that's kind of his approach, is start over every few years. Very minimalistic approach. Mm-hmm. That's not for everybody.
I will say moving in general is like a kick in the dick, and it's like maybe it's PTSD, but part of it is like, all right, I got to go, right? Like I got this new mortgage payment, I got this, I got that.
Got to
like,
hustle.
Yeah, I need money, and then like when we're sitting down, that's where like our comfortable lifestyle from before, like sitting down watching TV at night, I was like, all right, well I can do everything else tomorrow. Now I'm like, God, dude, like I got so much shit to do. Like,
but like I've told you about one of our investors, and like I've tried to mimic exactly his setup because I agree with it so much that like no debt, no no mortgages, no nothing. Anything I want, I buy in cash, and I buy with assets because all his income comes in typically from assets. He owns actually a bunch of businesses as well, but that's his setup. And like, hey, you want a beach house for $2 million? Go buy it in cash. Like, don't get a freaking mortgage on it. Because again, he's not in growth phase. He's not looking to leverage things in order to buy new stuff. He's got plenty of money. He's wealth preservation at this point.
Yep.
Buy something in cash, and like I love that philosophy.
That's
if you want something, go buy it with your money that your investments are buying. Right? And if you can't do it that way, then you can't afford it.
Wealth preservation is a really good term that a lot of people don't realize. It's like you make all this effort to get the money, but a lot of people, like, when they have the money, they spend the money. Yeah. But you got to realize, like, it takes effort to keep the money that you have too.
They talk a lot about that in Fastlane Millionaire in that book because people when you're investing in bonds, you're investing in index funds, like nobody's getting rich off that. Those are like wealth preservation.
Oh yeah.
Those are wealth preservation things. Like there's no way to get rich unless you're going to get, 100% return on your own money quickly. Right. Mm-hmm. And you do that by starting businesses and invest in business and invest in yourself.
Offsetting your taxable income.
Flipping a house, you can get 100% return on your money. Stuff like that. So to him, it's like you can't invest in any of these other things because those are wealth preservation stuff that you're not going to lose money on.
Yeah. But a lot of people lose money in taxes, and that's another thing that's not discussed a lot. Is like when you sell a property, short-term capital gains is around 40%, long-term capital gains is around 20%. Like that's a massive chunk of money.
That's Fed too. That's not even state level.
Yeah, that's a massive chunk of money that you're losing to taxes. So like, how do you offset that?
I'm sorry, I'm just daydreaming over here. How much I want to throw up? Like, my God, dude.
But when I was reading an article, this is probably a year or two ago, I was talking to a friend of mine. She deals with, you have to make more than $1 million a year, and then she could be a financial advisor. Like that's her break-in, and she's all.
But then she'll do what?
That's her break-in to work with her. You have to make at least $1 million a year, or whatever the number was. It was something stupid, and we just happened to be friends. And I was picking her brain, and I was like, all right, let me look more into this. And when I was reading these articles, it was the average person. This is from poor to rich. The average person spends loses 38% of their income to taxes, and that could be your excise tax, it could be your property tax, it could be your alcohol tax, it could be your income, whatever taxes you have out there. Like after you make the money and it's taxed and it's taxed and it's taxed again, you end up losing about, I think it was like 38% was the article I read, and that's a big number. Like so, if you make $100,000 a year, Uncle Sam off the break takes 38.
You get it all back because you work for the D.C. Fire Department, and all of our tax money pays for you, guy.
That being said, the CARES Act that they put in place for people who couldn't pay their bills, our taxes. So I had a guy who back owed about $10,000 in his rent. So He applied for the CARES Act because he was affected by COVID, and the CARES Act, which was our taxes, paid me back $10,000 of back owed rent. And I don't know if he has to pay it back or not. I don't remember the stipulations, but I'm like, this is the first time my taxes have ever gone back to me. This is great. So thank you, everybody watching this, for paying taxes.
But then I hear all the guys.
I'll get my cut.
No, I hear all the guys. I don't know. I was eligible. But I hear all the guys at work, they're like, oh, we owe taxes this year. I was like, yeah, it was your tax money. They just turned it around and just gave it to you now. Like, of course you're going to get taxed, right? Like, and then, the child tax thing that came around, the extra $500 or $600, like that was just your that was your child care tax credit that you get. In the end, like that CARES Act, like that was some scary shit. Cause like I heard guys at work robbing their 457 plans to go on vacations and buy trucks.
Waste the money.
Yeah, but
are you
blaming the system, or are you blaming them individually?
That goes back to being able to teach them at an early age. Dude, you know what? I remember in 5th grade we were taught how to balance a checkbook. Yeah, kids don't balance checkbooks. They're not taught that shit, right? Like that is scary.
The class
kids
I just
don't
mentioned,
need checkbooks. They won't have checkbooks. But I get the point.
Consumer math was the only class I ever took in any schooling that taught me about this is how you budget, this is how you balance a checkbook.
Yeah, but you also don't. No offense, but you don't know what they're teaching in the school system.
That's right.
Anymore.
I do, because I see what my kids learn, and like they go through some of that stuff.
No, maybe they do, maybe they don't. But in the end, I'm not risking it for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, but you can still teach it yourself. I mean, listen, I don't like the blame of, hey, it's this person's responsibility to do this. Like, the reason that you're successful is you took action yourself. Nobody told you to take action. You took action.
I believe we would
Same with me.
Yeah, but I went through the nasty stuff from 18 to 30 something, right?
Everybody does.
Right.
When did you become mature? Like, when would you say that you became mature?
About 20 years from now.
Yes, I'm not dead yet.
Legit mature. And you probably were more mature than anybody else I know at an earlier age.
I think in my early 20s, I had to make the mindset shift of I need to separate myself from people who are going to hold me down. Because there's a lot of knuckleheads we grew up around, and I was like, yeah, I love these guys, and I want to be part of their life, but they're holding me back and putting my future in
a position
where I could lose everything, and I don't want to be around that.
Yeah, I was a late 20s bloomer.
I was a late 20s too.
When did you get hired?
But
25.
25. I was 22 when I got hired.
Yeah. I'd say that job, you're around men pretty early. You know, like at that young age, you're definitely more impressionable.
But sometimes it could be a good thing. Sometimes it could be a bad thing because
it depends what men you're hanging out with.
Yeah, some guys can be like the wise old fireman who can be like, this is how you should.
Yeah, the system's going to fuck you. This is how you do it. And then there's the other dude, shift party Friday night. Let's go.
We're going out drinking at your house. You're paying for the $1 beer.
And by the way, you're driving because you're the junior man. If you get a DUI, don't worry about it. We'll figure it out. I'm like, okay.
Dude, the personal experience.
Dude, the point is it should be kind of put on a silver platter for people, but it is available. And it's getting more available.
It is definitely more available now with social media.
It's definitely more with websites and social media. Like your kids know how to just do stuff. Like it's like, hey, I want money. How do I get money?
I honestly
and the reason they want money is because they look on social media and they see kids with whatever Air Force Ones and shit like that.
I think TikTok was actually the best form of social media to come out because it's not put in a bubble and it's not like restricted what you can see. Like if you want to follow somebody who knows how to flip stuff at a garage sale or flip cars, or
I look for like flipping butts. No, sorry. What?
The people that want to do it's available.
My TikTok feed is probably way different than your TikTok feed.
I think you got Gary Vee on yours, but like
sorry, wrong podcast.
Wrong podcast. This is where I'm going to plug mine though. So First Responder Financial Freedom is a Facebook group they use for first responders, for firefighters, cops, nurses, first responders. Not second responders.
I'm still a member though.
But we go on there and we kind of like I overpost that site on purpose because I want to show people there's multiple ways to make money. Like one of the things I completely left out of my head for years until I saw on Facebook somebody had a burial plot for sale, and I was like, oh, about a decade ago I met a guy who flips burial plots. He would go out there and find out which ones are not being used and haven't been used, and the owners might die, and they pick them up for $500,000, $1,500, and turn around and sell them for $4,000. I'm like, there's always a way to make money. It's just you never think about it. So you want to go be around people who are motivated to learn and to teach. A lot of these groups I've seen are full of jokesters who are like, they're going to bash you down and tell you why you can't do it, and they kind of direct you how to live your life. But again, it goes back to I quantify my success in a certain way. Ian quantifies his a certain way. Jason quantifies his a different way. Our buddy Glenn over there quantifies his in a different way. So, like, you can't have somebody tell you how to direct your life. You just got to pick up the bits and pieces where you can use it to your advantage and grow the way you want to grow.
Yeah, and like we all, we both know a lot of people in certain groups of very successful people, and that's and that group, like, I don't really agree with anything that they do, because for me personally, I'm not saying it's not good for them, but most of those people are highly successful, and the way that they define success, even though I know lots of them have a good amount of money and they have a lot of passive income, like, that's 100% what I don't want to do.
Yeah, and I'll say to Aaron's group, the First Responder Financial Freedom, I'm a member. I'm active on there when I can be, and there's legit knowledge getting passed around.
Am I allowed to join or no?
Yeah, I think you're already in there.
What?
I'm just kidding.
He's like a fifth responder.
What's a second responder?
It's because I retired and
what's
I quit.
What's a third responder?
Yeah, that's you. You're
the parent.
Yeah.
What's a fourth responder? I want to see what a fifth equals.
You'd be a friend of the first responder.
But anyway, no, I mean,
I can't join.
It is a legit group, and there's good content being passed around, and it's good to see other guys doing deals and working through it. We've interviewed people from there. You're interviewing. You guys got a podcast now, which has been fun. I was on there. It was a good time.
The First Responder Financial Freedom is just basically like, a lot of us are blue collar. Nobody taught this stuff to us growing up, so it's a way for us to teach each other and motivate each other to be a better person and
talk like firemen and cops.
Yeah, and talk trash.
Yeah,
that's one of the things that, like, once you step out of this blue collar role, whether it be military or a first responder, like, our communication of love is ball busting. Like, we're talking trash. So we take that and we try to go into a board meeting and we're talking trash to somebody who's like, they've never been around that kind of personality. It doesn't jive.
Yeah, you can't talk a certain way to certain bankers.
Yeah.
I got a fun.
Like, every once in a while, like, I'll completely leave my head and I'll be like, I'll make a joke around somebody and they're like, okay.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh yeah, don't like dark humor because you've never seen something like this.
Well, the other thing is, like, when I did the interview with you, and I think this is a good point for everybody, is that a lot of blue-collar workers, or definitely first responders, they're just swapping time for money. Yeah, you're giving back, and it's like a noble job and everything, but in the end, like, really valuing that time that you're spending there and making a difference, whether you're investing with somebody else and making your money work for you, or going out and doing your own thing. I mean, we all know just in the past few months how quick that light switch can turn and you're dead.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's quick.
We had a guy, we're talking about one of the guys who retired recently, and the guy loved the job, and he's a great captain. He's a great officer. But the job didn't love him back. Like, they wouldn't promote him to chief, even though I personally think he should have been chief. More because of his qualifications, the way he can run a fire ground and everything else. But then politics came into play.
Yep.
And I'm like, I love the job as a firefighter, but my body is beat to hell. I've got metal ankle, I got metal shoulder, I got metal collarbone, and I'm like, man, like, these, like, I love the job, but I just got to survive 6 more years. And after that, if I want to be a volunteer fireman or try to stay on a year, I got very, very lucky moving to a slow house, because now I can focus more on getting healthy again. I'm heavier than I've ever been. So this year is going to be not so much about investing, but like fixing my body and getting healthy again and blah, 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 blah. All that midlife crisis 40-year-old stuff that we do.
Look great, though. Just want to let you know.
That's because I got a baggy shirt on. Thanks. Right. I appreciate it, though, bro.
I thought you just been lifting. You've been pounding?
Yep, absolutely. That's the story. I've been lifting a lot of weights.
But okay. And
be like Dan.
And we can kind of bring this full circle related to, like, listen, success is not all about money. It's not just, this whole thing is not just about, hey, making more and more and more money instead of sitting around, but like what you just said, like, you want to take better care of your body, lifestyle stuff. That's what it's about. And people that hustle, learn how to hustle, they grind, they're not just sitting around, they're being a productive person in society, right? It doesn't matter. It's not necessarily about fighting for $1 or $1 million. Like, that's not the end goal. It's what you want, what makes you happy. And, most of the time it's health related, and I don't know. It's hard to communicate that, like, your old friends that you're talking about. Like, it wasn't that they're not interested in, like, potentially starting a business or making money, but, like, it's like we have just different things in mind. Like, I want to be a good member of society. Like, I want to do this. I don't want to just go find any dead end job that's going to pay me some money with no purpose, and then come home and just do whatever. And
they might quantify that as success, and that's good. But if they want more, they have to put the effort in.
Yeah.
So effort and strategy are two primary motivators. So like if you're movers, because if you don't have the effort and you don't have a strategy to get there.
You just have to look right there. That's your camera.
Effort.
Now go.
There you go.
Effort and strategy are your two biggest motivators, because if you don't put the effort in, you're going to stay stagnant and not go anywhere. If you don't have a motivation, you don't have the reason to have the effort in the first place. If you don't have a strategy, then and surround yourself with somebody who can learn from you, then the strategy is null and void. Those are like your three pillars of success is effort, strategy, and motivation. Because so here's my analogy. So if you get a pricked finger, or if you have like a little small cut in your finger, you're not really motivated to go fix it right away. It's like, just wrap it up real quick and I'll be good and I'll fix it later on. If you have a bone sticking out of your arm, that's a motivation to go get it fixed immediately. Like the bigger the motivation is going to be, the bigger drive you're going to have to success. And then you got to figure out, so if it's the finger, my strategy is going to be go get a Band-Aid. If it's a bone sticking out of my arm, my strategy is going to be let's go to the hospital. Like you have to have a beginning, middle, end of each one.
And that's actually, Ian and I did a recent podcast with these two guys that had W-2 jobs, and they also invest on the side. And they were like, my W-2 job sometimes hurts me because I have like a solid income that comes in, and sometimes it doesn't motivate me to take it to the next level.
I've done that.
And I get it. And we all get it. Like,
you get comfortable.
I mean, we made, year one of HMB, I made like zero money, like very, very little. Right. Like we just did. Like, we closed our first deal or whatever, and we're like, here's $1,000. It's like, yes.
You paid more in taxes than you took home, guaranteed.
Nah, I didn't pay taxes for that first year, probably.
Yeah.
I mean, very, very little. We didn't make much money.
But you still pay taxes, because Uncle Sam always gets his cut, regardless if you make a lot or a little. Uncle Sam's gonna try to get his.
It's Uncle Joe right now.
Uncle Joe, whatever. Yeah. Uncle Sleepy.
Oh, then again, he might think he's Uncle Sam. We don't know. I'm gonna get this podcast shadow banned.
The one with Aaron Foster, take that off the air.
Yeah, I mean, dude, we've been going for a hot minute now.
How long have we been going?
Hour 20.
Hour 20. So I'm gonna ask you one more good question.
All right,
Ian's falling asleep.
No, dude.
Voice is slow. You need some caffeine.
No, I was going to pour a cup of coffee before we did this podcast, and you guys wound up hanging that thing over there, and then I got sidetracked, and then I sat down. I was like, man, this is so comfortable. The other thing is I got to get up at 4 a.m. and drive 18 hours to get down here.
Yeah, so instead of him working at the firehouse, he just decided to move 2 states over.
Because I'm like a drug addict, dude. I need that shit in my life. I need to feel tired, right? Like if I'm not feeling tired, I don't feel motivated.
Oh, that's all right. I was motivated today. I came here and got put to work. I hung up a Maryland sign that I made a couple years ago. Yep. I hung up a key.
Man.
Lockbox here.
Resident, we'll get you on the podcast in a few more months when there's more work that needs to be done around here.
Yeah.
We're thinking about, we need to hang lights up here.
We're going to hang some lights. Call Aaron. We're going to be the podcast again. We need to get some lights.
You don't live that too far from here.
Obviously, your favorite podcast is this one, and then probably your podcast, somewhere in between the two.
That's right.
You a podcast or a book guy, and if whatever one you are, what's your go-to?
Oh man, as I've gotten older, and I think a lot of guys in our realm have done this, I've gotten more into podcasts because my free time, if I'm in the car, I do a lot of driving, I listen to podcasts. If I'm trying to get my mind somewhere else, I read books. And a lot of times, like I with like financial literacy books, it's harder for me to retain, probably because of the dyslexia or I'm just dumb. But like there's other books, like fictional books, that I can read, and I'm like, okay, my mind goes into imagination. And I think this is just my personal opinion on a tangent. When you lose your imagination, you lose your ability to see things for what they could be, and you lose some of your motivation, and you lose some of your effort. So I like having books that get my mind somewhere else, and I can imagine what the setting of this book might be. So I read financial literacy books, but sometimes it gets too dry, so I need to get something that paints a better picture and gets my imagination going.
Yeah, it makes sense. Where can we find the podcast that you host, and where can we find you on the internet?
Oh boy. So I have another company that I run because I don't have enough going on. I do a lot of woodwork, so you can find me on thewildfirecreations.com. You can find me on Facebook. You can just friend request me. I don't post a lot of stuff on there. It's a lot of shit posting. It's a lot of poking.
Memes.
A lot of memes, especially with the recent smacking incident.
Aaron likes memes.
I do love memes. It's like my.
It's his imagination.
And I know the memes, just ones that he posts.
But I do try to keep them all condensed into one post. It's just a meme dump of like I'll do like 40 memes.
It's
at once.
him and one of my other.
He's my news source.
Dad jokes.
One of my other
news outlet.
firefighter investors. He's a nonstop memer, and I enjoy every single second of it.
You gotta find enjoyment, whether it be like the little things or the big things. Like you gotta enjoy your life. But you can find you can reach out if you're a first responder. Come to the First Responder Financial Freedom Group. If you want to directly reach out to me, you can email me at hometownheroes with an S REI at Gmail or wildfirecreations@gmail.com. Don't call me.
Well, lots of options.
Yeah, just find me. I'm easy to find. You can Google me. Somebody else will pop up, but you can still Google me.
It's all right. Aaron, 2 A's.
Aaron, not Adrian. Every time you Google my name, Adrian Foster pops up.
Was he football?
Yeah. Arian. Yeah, Arian Foster. Or a guy who builds the license plates.
That's why we don't know sports.
I know golf. I know that one guy.
The one guy. Yeah, him.
Oh, I know a Hall of Famer football guy. Other than that, that's all I got.
Cool. Hi, brother.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate you. Love you.
Thanks for tuning in to the Real Estate Reserve podcast. Do us a favor and like, comment, and share our broadcast. It helps the algorithm and helps us spread the word too. Till next time, thank you for tuning in.